Okay, so hello everyone. What I will before I start this class, let me just clarify one point, which one of the student has mailed me. Is given a color image, you want to do a grayscale image based processing on that. So how do you convert it? Okay, there are different ways of converting it, but what I would suggest you for your purpose, you simply can take an average of intensity across all the three channels. Okay, and that is how you could take an average of all the three channels and use it as your grayscale intensity value. And of course there will be different ways, since anyway we are our attention, our focus is not on that. You could right away use this. Just make sure this would be an integer, right? If you are storing it as an image, as long as you are processing, even if it is a non-integer value, will not, it may not cause you a problem. And also you need to make sure that this is getting average to the range of 0 to 255. That's the point. Okay, hope that point is clear. So what we would do is essentially we would start understanding about spatial filtering, which is a very essential component when you are doing any sort of image processing. And that we would learn the aspects of it by looking into a specific application of denoising. And of course, as we move on, you realize that the methods that we are going to discuss as such are not limited to denoising alone, but could be applicable to other the concepts are extra can be extended to any other aspects of image processing also. For example, you want to later we will also see about template matching. Okay, there are many other and gradients, extraction of gradients, extraction of edges. There also you would come across again the concepts of spatial filtering that we are going to discuss in this class. And let me just give you a 2-slide review or of whatever we have discussed in the last class. The moment you have an image, right, two phenomena are happening. On one side, you are spatially you are sampling the image, and the second thing is, in order to store it digitally as an image, you would be quantizing the intensity values to the nearest integer. And of course, depending on the number of bits you are using, this quantization would depend upon that as well. Okay, these are the two things that we discussed. Okay, although you will be submitting your assignments in Python notebook, I still would recommend you also to have a good familiarity with MATLAB. Okay, I'm just giving you some snippet of code where to do the analysis. Suppose these kinds of things will be very handy for you. You just want to, in the entire image, how do you read the image, right? ImRead would help you. You give along with the path the image name, and then you could see here you are just taking here the green channel, because it will be, I think it would RGB, so 1 2 3. So here colon would take you all columns, all rows and columns here, and then the second out of the three channels is what you are taking, and that would give you this image. Okay, I am show this you have stored in the green channel, so I am green. Okay, and by the way, when you are showing the images, that to grayscale images, don't use color anymore. Of course, you could display them using color also, which means it is in fact doing some other transformation. Okay, say now you just wanted to have the image in this row. Okay, so then that comes this is how you could do it. I would leave the interpretation of this to yourself. Okay, this line how you are plotting it here. uh, so yeah, you are in fact, no, this is in fact you are just drawing a line here. Okay, 1 is to 512 256 by 256 color are just decode that. Okay, and if you are just taking the profile of this, you would like to take the 256th row. So that's, this is basically I am green is a 2D image. If I am not wrong, it's a 512 by 512 image. So you are taking here 256th row and all column values corresponding to that. The notation you would be using in MATLAB is simply colon to extract all the values, and would look something like this. Yeah, the reason why I wanted you to get some familiarity with the drawing, extracting one row or a column and plotting it, is to understand all these concepts. You can do experiments starting from 1D, and later once you understand the concepts clearly, you could then of course do the same things in 2D, or for that matter any dimension. Okay, so now maybe more convenient one would be, for some time I would move on to the notebook mode. So let's say you have a let the original image, let me call that as let's say capital F of I comma j. I intend to use capital letter for 2D, and for 1D I would use a small letter. It's just a notation, it need not, it can be other way as well. And then suppose you have a noisy, we want to look at the denoising, how you could do. So noisy image, by that I would mean whatever image you have observed. That's what I mean by noisy image. So that observed image, let me call, denote it with g of I comma j. Again, the image be discrete, I am using the square brackets. Okay, otherwise if it is continuous, usually I use the other type of brackets. So now the observed image is in fact equivalent to the original image, or without the image without any noise. To that you have some noise got added. Okay, so this is what you observe, or the image that you have at your hand, and the goal would be to get this. That's what it means by denoising an given image. Okay, so what could be some of the common types of noises? Can you name some common types of noises? One is the Gaussian noise.
Salt and pepper.
Right, salt and pepper noise. Salt and pepper noise. And of course, sometimes there could be only salt. Okay, and that is referred to as, you could call it as a salt noise, or another name for it is impulse noise. There could be noises that might not, you might not model it to any of the well-known well-known kinds of distributions, and you may find out the distribution for the noise itself. Anyway, we are not going into those details. What do you mean by salt and pepper noise? What are all added? So assume that you have an 8-bit integer here. Okay, for storing the values. So then what is it that this noise would add? Hmm?
0 and 255.
Very good. So 0 is black, right? This is black, which means which is pepper. We are referring to it as pepper. Pepper being black. This is a white, right? This is a 8-bit integer, means it can have values from 0 to 255. This is white, that what we mean by salt. So these are the two values that get added to a given image. And what about impulse noise? Say impulse is usually, if you recollect, there is just one single spike there, which we refer to as 1. Now the highest value, that's in other words everywhere 0, that is there 1. So this is essentially, there is just the salt noise. Okay, so let me again show you some images that got corrupted with this kind of noise. So the left hand side image is the original image. What's the kind of noise that got added in the second image? You could notice there are certain regions where either black or white. That is how the intensity values of the pixels got modified too. So that's salt and pepper noise. What about the third image?
It's impulse noise.
Right, that's the impulse noise. Now there is no pepper, only there is salt. And then obviously, what's the last one?
Gaussian.
Gaussian noise. So that is slightly difficult to figure out. You need to have a closer look at it, then you would realize that. So basically, salt and pepper noise is random occurrences of black and white pixels. Impulse noise is random occurrences of white pixels. Gaussian noise is variations in intensity, and these variations are drawn from a Gaussian normal distribution. So with the mean value of 0 and for different standard deviations, that's what could happen. And from that Gaussian distribution, rand n, if you have used MATLAB, that's what you would use by giving it the kind of standard deviation that you want, and then you will do that. Okay, so you should be also comfortable into a given image. How do you add a particular noise and show the image? And then you need to later should be able to implement algorithms. Okay, these are very basic. You would realize they are very, in fact, very simple to do that, but that's something you should be comfortable with. Okay, so then just another representation of this noise, particularly for the Gaussian noise, where sigma, the standard deviation, if you are varying. Okay, say for example, the first the kind of I'm just showing you here the commands from MATLAB, but I leave it as an exercise for you to figure out what would be the equivalent commands in Python, depending on which one you are going to use. So you could notice there, by also just like you are able to say by looking at the image what kind of noise it is among the three that we discussed. You should be equally good at computing and figuring out what would be the magnitude of that noise also. So for example, there you could see sigma equal to 2, sigma equal to 8, 32, 64. Anyway, I'll come back to the Gaussian noise a little later. But before that, let us have a very basic question that let's say, let's start with 1D and then we will move to the 2D case. So consider here, I have one row of an image is as shown here, as marked here as original. Okay, this is one row of values. Now, we expect that every pixel is somewhat similar to its neighbor. Okay, the intensity of a given pixel is similar to the intensity of its neighbors. So that's the assumption we are making here, and the based on that we want to get a smooth version of that, making this assumption that originally so based on the conventions that we have, based on the notations that we used earlier. So this is your observed image. Okay, this is your, yeah, original here is in fact the observed image is this. Okay, so observed image, if you had noted down what I was telling earlier, so this is g of I comma j, had it been in 2D. So let me simply write it as g of I here. Okay, assume that this is your original image. Okay, something like this is your original image. Let me call this as f of I. Okay, I would like to get f of I given g of I. So in other words, all I want to do is a simple smoothing of the given image, a smoothed version of that, so that as you could observe here, there are no such aberrations which are shooting up or down by a large margin. So what is the kind of operation that you could think of to do this?
Low
So
pass
the
filter, sir.
impulse.
Low pass filter, sir.
Let us not go into the frequency domain for now. Those are all quite possible. Once we establish ourselves well in the spatial domain, then later we will explore it in more detail. So for now, you want to restrict yourself to just the spatial domain. And the question is, how do you remove the noise? Okay. So in other words, I want to get given something like this. Okay, I want to, from here I want to obtain something like this. So how could you obtain that?
Moving
Moving
average
average.
filters.
Very good, very good. So I'm sure every one of you is aware of this because you had it in DSP also. We studied this moving average filter, right? Say for example, I want to average it. Okay, suppose I am at a particular pixel location. I would like to make use of the values, let's say a couple of values before that and after that, along with that value there. Okay, how does that filter then? What should I do then? Okay, say for example, as I mentioned here, observed. So let me write it here. So my observed image, okay, observed image is what is that I am writing here, g of I. Okay, My observed image is G of I. I want to get F of I, okay, for a location of I. So then how do you write now? From G of I, how do you get that? So you are considering a neighborhood of, let's say, 2 before and 2 after. We are just for time being, we are in 1D. So how do you get given G of I?
Summation from G of I minus 2 to G of I plus 2.
Can you
Yeah,
give me a
basically,
more? Yeah,
yeah,
please
G
give
of
me.
I minus K varies from minus 2 to 2. That would be an expression, and the whole thing divided by 5.
So my K is varying from minus 2
Minus
to
2 to
plus 2,
2.
right?
And G of I minus K,
Okay,
and whole divided by the number like 5, because we are
very,
taking an average.
very good. Is everybody with this? You have a, for example, this is your G of I, okay? I have a values somewhere, assume that this is my I. What he's saying is you go from minus 2 to plus 2 from I. So for example, when I start from I minus 2, that would be this being I, this would be I minus 2. Okay, K minus 1 means I minus 1, I plus 1, I plus 2. What he's saying is you sum up all these things. Anyway, you are summing up 5 values. So normalize it by 5. So for example, if I had, for example, 10, 11, 12, okay, 13, 10, something like this. Okay. Now in my output, I want to, at this location, I want to find out what would be the value of after smoothing. So what this expression tells you is 1 by 5 into 10 plus 13 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12, whatever it is, you would replace with that value in the output image. Is that clear? Now, suppose I want it now, this is good, this is correct. Now, I want to make a slight generalization here. So my original image is like this, okay? This image I am representing it with G, okay? G of I is there. Now, can you think of this, okay? Now, for example, I'm just drawing this, this is of my interest. I am looking at the values 2 before and 2 after. Okay, can you equate it to multiplying and summing it up with some kernel here? So 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, this let me call it as h of k or h of I as h of k, let me call it. Okay, so for example, this is my center again here. Now, can you write it in terms of given g of I and h of k? Okay, k, you use whatever variable, doesn't really matter, but I want you to now express f of I in terms of that, so that I could give a generalized expression from later on. Can you write it? Now assume that, maybe let me call this as I itself. Okay, say if,
Convolution.
don't tell me any names as such, tell me the expression, then let us see later what it is, whether it is convolution or something else. Okay, so this is what h of I am calling it. Okay, this I is varying from minus k to plus k. In this case, k was minus k is minus 2 here. Okay, or you call it with whatever k naught or k, it doesn't really matter for me. Okay, now express f of I. See, this is, for example, earlier, let me put this here. This operation is equivalent to multiplying it with 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Now later I might, you would see shortly what it means, but for now use it as a black box. I don't want to specify the weights of this kernel, or I still don't want to call it as a kernel, weights of this vector a priori. I just want to look at it later on. I want to keep it general. Okay, that's what I am calling it with a, you call it as a mask or whatever, h of I. Now, can you express f of I in terms of g of I and h of I? Let us start with very simple things. What is my normalization factor? Let's go step by step. What is my normalization factor here?
1 by 5.
1 by 2k.
Yeah, 1 by 5, but keep it general. I am saying it varies from minus k to plus k.
1 by
Later, I want to look at 3 neighbors, let's say, then k will be 3. 1 by?
By 2k plus 1.
Very good. Then tell me now, okay, some summation, and since I used k here, let me use some other variable u. Now my u should vary from
minus k to plus k.
K
very
to
good.
K.
And now tell me what should come inside.
h of u into g of u minus I minus u.
Why that negative sign here? Can you not get rid of that negative sign? Means negative sign, there is some issue there. I don't think. See, all I am doing here is I am just multiplying the corresponding elements. Why do we need a minus there?
It can be I plus u also.
Can it be minus? That's the question.
As as u is varying from minus k to k,
Right.
it can be plus or minus.
See, just tell me in the way I'm doing here. See, for example, all I am doing here is this is my 0. Okay. This, for example, is my h of 0. Okay. This is my h of 1. This is my h of 2. H of minus 1. H of minus 2. I want to multiply h of 0 with whichever is there at I here. This is I. Okay. This is I plus 1, I plus 2, and so on. This is I minus 1, I minus 2, and so on. Now I want to just keep these centers. If I want to compute the value at I want to keep that aligned with h of 0 and then multiply the corresponding elements and sum them up. So of course, normalization is done here. Summing up is done here. Now just multiplication of corresponding elements. That's the expression. If you write there, that would be, for example, g of I into h of 0 plus g of I plus 1 into h of 1 plus g. You are all struck at convolution, I think, in your minds.
G of I would be a big array, right? Like it's not
Just
like
no, just take a look at here. G of I minus 1 into h of minus 1 plus g of I minus 2 into h of minus 2. Is it not all you have to do here when you are doing this? G of I into h of 0. This would be, you need to multiply that which is there at I plus 1 with h of 1. Whichever is there at I plus 2, h of 2. I minus 1, h of minus 1. I minus 2, h of minus 2. This would give me the value of f of I. Okay, suppose I want to find out some I is something here, then you keep the center aligned here, h of 0 there, and you repeat the same thing. Is there any confusion with this expression that I have written? See, I assumed here my k varying from minus 2 to plus 2. Okay, now I want to find out value at I. All I need to do is h of 0 I need to multiply with g of I. Next value, so this with this I need to multiply, this with this I need to multiply, this with this, okay, this with this, and then sum them all. That's all I need to do.
I plus U, G of I plus U.
That's all. Okay, so this is nothing but, so just for the I would just prefer writing first g of I. It doesn't really matter even if I write it the other way. G of I plus u into h of
U.
right. Is everybody with me? This is a very important expression. So these are the types of expressions you should be able to write comfortably. You should be very comfortable with these things. So I don't mind spending some more time if this is not clear to you. F of I is equivalent to, so h of u, this u I am varying. See, it is varying from, index is varying from minus 2 to plus 2, minus bk here being 2. It could have been longer than this. Okay, then it would vary. And then from u would vary from 0, 1, 2 on this side, minus 1, minus 2, and so on, depending on the k value on this side. Just correspondingly, I am multiplying. I am just keeping the centers aligned, putting it on top of it there with the centers matched, multiply the corresponding elements and sum them up.
Just to question this f of
Yes,
I
sir.
that you have written in the second part, what exactly is this like for?
Okay, so this is, for example, for denoising, we are assuming that you do some operation like this, the way we are doing moving average filter. Okay, we are generalizing it, and the resulting image is f of I. You could think of it as I have written here. Okay, this is f is nothing but an original image or denoised image. That is what you are getting as an output.
Okay, so this is different from the moving average filter in that case. This is nothing to do with that.
See, moving average filter, when your h of u equal to, if you want a moving average filter, then what should be your h of u?
Should be just one in that.
That's it. That's it. So we are generalizing it so that later you could use it. You will see shortly the benefits of generalizing it. Okay, we will come to that. But if you want the special case of moving average, just make h of u to be one. Means h all of these values to be one. Okay, this you take. Suppose if you are taking this to be 1, 1, 1, all elements of this being 1. Okay, h of u is equal to 1 for u varying from minus k to plus k. Then this is moving average. Yeah, yes.
Small
please.
doubt on like why shouldn't we use convolution here instead of this?
Why do you want to use convolution?
It's almost the same, right? I mean, the expression
Right.
is almost the same.
Yes. Anybody by any chance know what is this expression? This is called as cross correlation. I'm sure in communication systems you would have studied this, and of course even we at least mentioned about it in the DSP course, just like that. And again, let me make one more modification now. Can I not take this 1 by 2k plus 1 into the weights itself? For example, instead of writing it this way, I would write it as h of u equal to 1 by 2k plus 1. Okay, for u varying from minus k to plus k. Fine. Then I could get rid of this normalization factor, which I would take inside this. So this still would be then equal to moving average filter, only this one. So I would from now on would be writing this expression as this: u equal to minus k to plus k g of I plus u into h of u. Simply this is what I am going to write. And this is nothing but cross correlation. And now you are all not far away from it, that this, in fact, if I had here g of I minus u, h of u, okay, then u varying from minus k to plus k, this would be equivalent to g of I convolved with h of I, right? And this is in fact is called as cross correlation, which is equal to g of I multiplied or cross correlation of it with h of I. This is how you would denote this. And this happened to means it is not like we want to do convolution or correlation. This is what happened to be the result that we got. We referred to it as this turned out to be the definition of cross correlation, just like this turned out to be the definition of convolution. And of course, some of you are asking, can I not write it as convolution? Okay, so before that, tell me like how the convolution, when is that? Maybe I will put this question: when is convolution will be same as correlation? Here would give you the, when is that you will get the same result in doing whether convolution or correlation, you should get the same result. When is this going to happen?
If h of u is symmetric.
Very good. If your h of u is symmetric, okay, so this again, then what would happen? See, all you need to do is, for example, you already, I don't have to derive this property to you now, you already know it. This is equal to h of I convolved with g of I, right? Using that, you could write this expression, and you will see that all you need to do while doing convolution is you need to flip the mask or kernel, and then you need to then then after that you are going to multiply the corresponding elements and then sum them up, right? So if your h of u is symmetric, then your convolution and correlation are going to give you the same results. And in images in particular, there are only few instances where you do not have a symmetric mask. For example, this is a moving average filter is a symmetric mask. Around the center, you move this way or this way. So for example, flipped one means what would happen? This one will come here, this one would go here, this would come here, the earlier initial one will go there. So that's essentially a symmetric mask. So when you have a symmetric kernel h of u, anyway, you don't have anyway control over what is the image that is going to come. So we would rather focus on the kernel you are going to use to perform some operations on a given image. So what you could see here is that if h of u is symmetric, right, then convolution and correlation are same. Then next question is, which one do you prefer now, if they are same, whether convolution or correlation? Yeah, computationally, which one should be easier to implement? Assume that you are not calling any function as such, you just want to implement it by writing your own code of for loops there. So which one do you go for?
Computationally, both should be the same.
Right,
Like,
right. That is also
because
correct.
the loop wise, like for correlation, will be going forward in the loop,
Right.
and
That's all.
for
In your loop, instead of plus here, you would keep minus here. That's all you are going to use. So it is not going to make any difference. So if you have a routine, a subroutine in your program that that computes convolution, you could still do the operation by simply giving it a mask, which is a flipped version of the original mask that you are going to use for performing certain operations like denoising on it, and that would serve the purpose, and vice versa. So if convolution and correlation are quite interchangeable, by just simply flipping the mask, and of course when your mask is symmetric, original mask is same as the flipped mask, as of course that's why we are calling it as symmetric, then convolution is same as correlation. Now let me extend writing these expressions to 2D images, because that's what we need to write it. And given that earlier in your DSP course, we are just restricting ourselves to 1D. Now let's write this expression in 2D. As you would know, while trying, you would realize this is not at all a difficult task to do. But anyway, let's start with the 2D cross correlation expression. Okay, because while you are implementing by hand, it is more comfortable. Anyway, we'll write convolution also after that. So assume that what I am getting here, let me call now output image is indexed by g of I comma j. Okay, now let me call the mask as h of u comma v, the mask I am using to correlate. Okay, and let the image be I of, okay, I of I comma j. Okay, of course this I and j could vary from, let's say, m by n image. Each one could vary from m, I can vary from 1 to m, j can vary from 1 to n. So now give me the expression for g of ij. You already know the expression for cross correlation in 1D. Now give me the expression for 2D expression. You give me now g of ij. Okay, I want to do a cross correlation between these two. What would be that? This is what I'm referring to as g of ij. Give me the expression now. First, you tell me how you do it. Then we will write the mathematical expression.
We'll have two summations, sir.
Very good. That's right. Okay. And from here, I would like to use for x. Okay, for one u. Okay, and another v. Okay. And also let me make an assumption that this is a square mask or kernel, each varying from minus k to plus k. Okay, so now you tell me. U is varying from?
Minus k, sir.
Right. Then what about v?
Same as you.
Right. Then I would like to start with, for example, I. You tell me now what I should keep for I here. Am I calling it as I, or maybe I'm calling it as F, right? Let me, yeah, sorry. Just let me correct this out here. Let me call the original one be capital F here. Yeah, tell me now. F of what should I write here?
Sir, I think it should be f of I plus u, comma, like
very good.
k plus
Very
v,
good. Very good.
multiplied
Because
by h of u, comma v.
excellent. Very good. Because this is where you want to get at values I comma j. So you should vary and look at neighbors of I comma j within the range of u comma v. So j plus v. Okay. And then what?
Last part will be h of u, comma v.
Very good. 2D convolution, of those two matrices, if I can call so. Okay, so let me just to distinguish it from cross correlation, let me call the resultant. Don't ask me why I want to do convolution, just for the sake of doing, I want to do that. Then you tell me what would be the convolution expression. How would that be different from, again, I want to know my G, if you want, I will write here, G dash of ij is convolving of h of u comma v, doesn't really matter. Convolution is commutative. So I could write it in any ways. Okay, let me put it this way. Now you tell me the expression here.
Is it just like replacing I plus u and j plus v by I minus u and j minus v in the above expression?
Very good. That's all. U is varying from minus k2 plus k. V is varying from minus k2 plus k. F of I minus u and j minus v multiplied with h of u comma v. Okay. So what is happening here now? If you want me to draw how it looks like is, you have an image. Okay. Suppose at a given location of this one, okay, this is your I and j, okay, and this is what you have as f of I comma j, this image. From that you want to compute what would be, you want to do, for example, moving average filter in 2D. What would happen now? You could, for example, assume that I'm going to use two neighbors. So on this side till here, on this side till here, right? Two on the top, two on the bottom. Okay, so this whole stuff, hope I'm drawing it correctly. Look at here, this is -1, -2, minus, I'm just writing the indices there, not the intensity values or anything. One, it depends on how I am considering the axis. Okay, 1, 2, or -1, or +1, +2, -1, -2. Okay, I could have written 1, 2, -1, -2. That's okay. So if this is my notation, this going in this direction is positive. So index of whatever is there here, +1 and +2, this is -1 and -2. So this is my h of u comma v that I would put there, would be, what is the size of that? What should be the size there? A 5 by 5, right? If I'm using two neighbors here and there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I should be having that as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For moving average, let me put all these values to 1. Okay, and what would be then multiplication factor? Just that inside writing will be difficult. Some factor there, I am keeping it as simply 1. So each one would in fact gets multiplied with 1 over
25.
25. That's all. This is all you need to do. Then what you need to do, simply wherever, so where is the center of this? This is the center for this. Okay, so from here you have this being y, okay, or this being x, or it could vary, doesn't really matter. So then you keep that here, then you multiply the corresponding elements, sum them up. That is essentially what this operation is doing. Okay, and in another case, this is equivalent to, this is your h of u comma v. That's what it is. In another case, you just need to flip your mask and do it. Okay, so another thing you should be comfortable here doing is, how does flipping work in 2D? That's something you have to be clear. Okay, to keep things simple, let me use just one neighbor here rather than two neighbors. Okay, that's my h of u. Let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is my center. Center is important here to keep a note, because based on that only the flipping would happen. Okay, then of course this is whatever this direction doesn't really matter once you know the center. So now I want, this is your h of u comma v, I want h of minus u comma minus v. How do you get that? So with this, we would, yeah, this is the last thing we would discuss before we wrap up. So how does it look like? Minus u minus v.
So
For
we should
example,
flip
this one, where is it going to go now?
bottom right corner.
Right. So you do, for example, this vertical flip here, that would come to this location of 3, and then it would come to, then you do a horizontal flip, okay, because you need to flip minus u as well as minus v. So thereby 1 would come here. What happens to this 2? You do a horizontal flip, it will come here. Vertical flip, where will it go? It will remain same there. Vertically it is there at the center, right? That is the center one. So 2 would come here. And what about 3? Horizontally, yeah, I mean 1 with respect to this axis, okay, another with respect to this axis. Doesn't really matter which one you do first. So for example, I do here, this would come to here, okay, and then here, right? This is vertical, with this is horizontal axis, so 3 would come here. Then take 4, okay, 4, it would come here. If I am doing this axis, 4 would come here, then flipping would keep it there itself. 5 would remains the same. 6 would come here, okay. And then what about 7? It would come here, and then you flip there, 7 would go here. And what about 8? 8 would come here, 9 would go here. And you would realize that this is equivalent to horizontal flip followed by vertical flip. You do horizontal flip and also then do vertical flip. That's also would be equivalent. What do I mean by that? Say for example, I do just a horizontal flip there. Then what do I get? Just rows. This row would come here. This row would go there. Okay. Middle row would remain there itself. So I would get here 1, 2, 3. Here I would get 7, 8, 9. This of course 4, 5, 6. Followed by that, next let me do a vertical flip now. By that, what's going to happen now? This would come here, this would go there. Of course, the center one would remain same, 8, 5, 2, 7, 4, 1. And this would come to this 9, 6, 3. That's exactly same as doing element by element, minus I and minus j, flipping along the x and y axis. So one convenient way of doing this flipping operation is that you do first row wise flipping and then followed by column wise flipping, or you could in fact do the other way around as well, because this operation is again a commutative one. Is it clear on how you do the relationship between 2D convolution, 2D cross correlation? And of course, after doing this flipping, if you are doing this cross correlation, that's good enough. That would give you the convolution result. Okay, this is equivalent, if you look at this, minus u minus v, if you do it, it's equivalent to autocorrelation of the original one with a convolved mask, would give you the convolution result. Okay, now I will come here. So this is what we did. Okay, 1/5 you had it. If you want, you could take it inside. So if you look at here, you take, for example, at whichever location you want to compute the value, you are going to multiply that with, for example, your size here is 2 neighbors left and right. So from that point, you have 2 here, 2 there, and the rest remaining 0, and this moving, and that's the moving average. And why this should tell you and why we are interested in generalizing the whole stuff. The reason being, you don't need to have equal weights everywhere. That used to be the case with simple moving average, but you could have a weighted moving average, which intuitively means that the closer the neighbor to you, the more similar you are to that particular neighbor than a neighbor who is relatively far away. So look at here, this has a value of 6, you are giving weight. Suppose if it has a 10 value, this is having 12, 12. Okay, this is having 10, 10 some 15, 15. Okay, so when you are summing up and computing the value at this particular location, you are giving more weight to the pixel which is right away at that center of your kernel. Give less weight to relatively less weight, and even relatively less weight as you move away from the center. Okay, and this is something you could refer to as non-uniform weights. And now you could notice that your mask could be, for example, 1 by 16, 4 by 16, 6 by 16, 4 by 16, and 1 by 16. That's the mask you would use here. And then you do a simple autocorrelation there. That should give you the answer. Okay, so this is the expression you have written now comfortably. Now I'm sure now you are all comfortable in writing this expression. So even in an interview, these are the kind of questions asked. While how do you everybody would be able to say pictorially on what you do for correlation and what you do for convolution. What people would be interested to know is how good are you in translating this idea to a mathematical form. Okay, so it is very important that you be comfortable in writing them. Okay, that's something you need to particularly practice. Okay, so by the way, we have written initially 1 by 2k plus 1 whole square, but we would rather later onwards we will ignore that part, because we would this is again we are writing as a correlation the weighted function there. That's why it is initially there, but then you could always embed that in your kernel. This is referred to as kernel and mask. Okay, and that's all. Okay, so then the relationship between cross correlation and convolution, these expressions also you are able to write on your own itself now. Okay, and by the way, when just one more point, if you have something like this, okay, all values being 1, this is referred to as box filter. You just remember this word. This is referred to as, anyway you are taking a box around that pixel, you are summing up all the values and taking average value by just dividing it with the number of pixels, all being 1 here. This is referred to, just like you had a unit sample signal, this unit sample filter, this is something referred to as in 2D. You refer to this by a generic name, box filter. Okay, so if you want to take a look at the operations here pictorially, now I purposefully first have written the mathematical expression, as you need to get comfortable with that. Now if you want, you could see here, you could follow very easily what you get as an output. Assume that this is your, yeah, not assumption, this is the box filter you have. Suppose if you want to find out the value at this location, right, all you do is you put all this filter here and see then what's going to happen. You are going to get, for example, 270 here, 270 divided by 90, that's what, 30, that's the value it would come there. And then you want to compute the value, let's say at this location. And so in the same location, in the observed or noisy image, you keep your box filter there, you sum up whole things, and so you would get a 0 here. So, and then suppose you want to then compute at this location, so you put your box filter centered at this location, you sum up all the values there, okay, and then average it. So you would get, there are 9, this is having 9, so 90 by 9, so you are getting here 10. Okay, then you move there 20, 30, okay, and so on. This is, suppose if this is your input image, okay, then this is what you are going to get as an output image after convolving it with a moving average filter. So you could see here, originally there is just one value. So can you say what kind of noise it is? Perhaps, can you make any guess the moment you see an image there? Can you, means of course it could, there could be particular cases where this is noise, not noise, object is by that in that way only, but you could still see. Can you make any, means intuitively what would you say the moment you see something like this? What kind of noise it is, or what is your observation here from this image? What is the characteristic of this image on your left hand side?
Salt and pepper noise.
Yeah, something similar to salt and pepper noise, because you see the whole values in this rectangle being 90 except this being 0, all this being 0 except this to be 90. So you could also make an inference here that if the type of noise that got added is salt and pepper, perhaps this averaging filter or weighted averaging filter is not the best thing to do. See what had happened here. This 90 had modified all these values. Okay, similarly this 0, after you applying that, has modified all these values here to 30, 50, 50 here. Okay, wherever there is an overlap of windowing, any neighbor above and below, it had affected all of them here. So on the other hand, if you are having a Gaussian noise added to that, typically you could use something like moving average. Even better would be to use weighted average. Okay, that's all. And I will stop here in the interest of time. Okay, so in the next class, what I would do is we would continue our discussion a bit more in the next class also. So then we would discuss in more detail about the Gaussian filtering, followed by that at least median filtering is what I would talk about. Then we will move on from this topic to template matching using spatial filtering. Okay, any questions?
Yes, sir. So in this class, we saw images in which the noise is distributed throughout the image. So what if it is specific to some particular region? Like for example, you take a photo and because of sunlight, there is saturation in one region.
Right.
How can
Yeah, and I think I got your question. See, we are not actually targeting any one thing here. We are rather using them. Some of the images are excuses to learn first the basics of spatial filtering. What is autocorrelation? What is convolution? And then how do you apply some filtering there to get that? That's all. So just that we looked at cases where these are again a very detailed one. So maybe I'll try to talk somewhat practically what kind of things you could get and when as we move on. That's a good point, in fact. But actually, right now we have not touched that so far. Yeah, good. Any other quick questions?
Yes, sir. Just one.
Please.
When you were convolving in the previous slide, there
Hmm.
were some pixels lost in the
Right.
border.
Very good.
So is that like, is it a disadvantage or?
Yeah, I'm glad you observed that and you posed that question. I will again talk about it in more detail in the next class. That's a very, very important aspect. How to deal with the boundary pixels is a very, very important aspect. So I will talk about it again in the next lecture. Yeah, maybe I would just try to answer quickly to the earlier question also. This is a very generic one we are talking about. So if you know the nature of the noise that is there, then you have to come up with a special customized one. Okay, the algorithm that we are discussing so far, be it a Gaussian based kernel or any kernel, will not address this issue right away. Okay. Maybe another thing you might also have observed here is the moment you are doing these kinds of operations, be it Gaussian filtering, Gaussian kernel. Okay, Gaussian kernel, I'm using the name, but I talk about it in the next class, or moving average filter or weighted moving average filter. You could notice that the clear edges that are there in the image gets blurred out. That's also is a side effect, or in some cases an undesirable effect that could happen. And if you want to deal with it, you could need to come up with a better denoising ways. Okay, some maybe when we come back to later into active contours and all, we will discuss a little about that. Okay, then see you in the next class on Monday.